Can you please tell me what sort of musical activities you were involved in before you formed the Mothers?
I had a recording studio in Cucamonga, California.
Was this a sort of private thing?
No, it was supposed to be, open to the public, and I was selling studio time, but there was nobody out there who wanted to make records.
So you never made any masters up there?
Well, I made a lot of masters, but I didn't make masters of other people, like people coming in off the street to use it as a commercial studio. Most of the masters that came out of it were either of overdub things that I'd made myself, or tracks involving Ray Collins, who was the original lead singer from the group. Before we actually had a group, I was working with him. I produced some stuff on him.
Yeah, none of it was ever issued.
Well, no. I took the masters to town and shopped them around, and nobody picked up on them. However, before I owned the studio, the guy who had it before me was a guy named Paul Buff, and he had made masters of both Ray Collins and myself, and some of those were issued.
Yeah, I think Bob Keane put out.
Yeah.
One on Delphi.
Yeah, there's one called How's Your Bird, and The World's Greatest Sinner on the other side. And also, I made some tracks and wrote some material for a couple of other acts. At that time, one of them was released on Delphi. It was a group called the Heartbreakers. There's two 14-year-old Mexican kids who sang. One side was called Cradle Rock, and the other side was Every Time I See You, or something like that. I can't remember what the name was. And we also leased a couple of masters to Art LeBeau at Original Sound.
Yeah, who was that by?
One of them was called Mr. Clean, by Mr. Clean, and the other one was Grunion Run, which was released under the name of the Hollywood Persuaders. The A side of Grunion Run was Tijuana Surf, which became the #1 record in Mexico for about 10 months straight and sold volumes down there.
That was yourself and Ray?
No, that was, Grunion Run was me and Paul Buff. And then Ray and I wrote a song called Memories of El Monte, which was recorded by the Penguins, and that was released on Original Sound.
There's nothing else before that?
There were a couple of releases on a extremely low-budget label. Yeah, the label was called Viga, V-I-G-A-H, and there was several things out on that. One of them, the first record I ever made, was called Break Time, by a group called The Masters, which was me and Paul Buff and Ronnie Williams, who was playing drums and bass on a thing. It was an overdub deal. And then the next...
What date was that about?
Oh, that was 62 or 63. Let's see what else we have. We made a record with a local disc jockey from San Bernardino named Brian Lord, who could do a Kennedy imitation. And we recorded a record called The Big Surfer, which had a very strange punchline to it. And we took it in. We had released it on Viga, and it was getting a lot of play in San Bernardino because the cat was the disc jockey. So we took it into Capitol and offered it to them, and they bought the master right away. They gave us $800 in front for it.
Who was that bought it?
Jim Economides. And they never released it because one of the lines in there had something about for winning our dance contest, you get to be the first members of the Peace Corps to be sent to Alabama. And about a week after they bought the master, Medgar Evers got shot. So, it was just too hot to release it.
Where was this Vega label based? In San Bernardino?
No, Viga was just a name that we cooked up for the stuff that was made there in Cucamonga.
And it was your label, you shared?
No, it was Paul Buff's label, because he owned the studio at that time. I was just a creep that used to hang around there. And we also recorded a parody of Paul and Paula called Ned and Nelda, which was, one side was Ned and Nelda, and the other side was Surf Along with Ned and Nelda.
So it's mostly this sort of comedy, satirical.
Yeah.
Value in
Yeah.
Even that idea, I guess.
Yeah, well, even before that, because prior to the time I had access to a recording studio, I would rent tape recorders from a local hi-fi shop on the weekends, and for about $5 for a weekend, I'd have all my friends over to the house, and we'd improvise plays and stuff. I I still have a lot of those tapes.
You should put them out, yeah.
I wish I could. Don't know whether there's really a market for some of that kind of humor.
Mm-hmm.
And I also did research where I would interview people
and
get their life stories. Some of the most grotesque events of the century.
Right, what's the thing?
Well, the story of Ronnie and Kenny, like Kenny saved his piss in these mason jars out in back of his house until black things started growing in it and got increased in size and swam around in the jars, and no doctor knew what it was.
Right.
And his brother Ronnie, who saved his snot on a window in his room. I have them telling about these things. And
what are these, just local?
There were kids who lived in Ontario. Ronnie was the guitar player on the first record.
Wow.
You know, and they're just... If I met somebody and they looked like they had a story to tell, I would just say, here.
And this guy had black things singing about.
You want to hear him tell about it?
Yeah, that's really weird.
Hold
What
on.
were they?
I don't know. But at one time, we had delivered to Bob Keane masters for, you know the album Lumpy Gravy?
Yeah.
You know the last tune on Lumpy Gravy goes da 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 da, and a little bongo fill and da 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 da. It's called "Take Your Clothes Off When You Dance" when it's in the We're Only at the Money album. Well, we took that very same master that's on Lumpy Gravy because it was recorded in '62 or '63.
Really?
Yeah, and took it to him, and he sat on it and never released it when he got it back. And I ought to play you some of the tapes of the actual production that we did with Ray at the studio, because some of them are quite remarkable. The tunes, there's 3 or 4 tunes on the Reuben and the Jets album that were originally recorded in Cucamonga, and then we re-recorded them for the Reuben and the Jets thing.
But by the time you re-recorded them, they were in fact dated. You know, they were parodies. But originally, they were the real thing, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, except that, no...
Because I hadn't heard them, the originals. You know.
Well, the original era of that sort of music, which, you know, Greaseball, ooh-wah...
That's going back right back there,
That's 55 and 56, and it would have been like a revival material to have done it in 62 or 63.
Who and what were your influences in your formative years?
Most high school was rhythm and blues, and I like Johnny Guitar Watson, and Clarence Gatemouth Brown, and Lightning Slim, Muddy Waters, and the Howlin' Wolf, and all the group vocals.